Tech by Tips.
Hello and welcome to another Tech by Tips video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the application named Mylar. It is an application for comics, and if you're a fan of comics, I really think you're gonna like this one. It's not one of the R's, but it's a successor or comes from the line of Sickbeard. So it's a Python-based application, and it's very similar to those kinds. So that's the one I have been more accustomed to for comics. And even though I use the R's for all the other content, that's the one that I prefer for comics. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. Hope you find it useful. And remember, you can always comment in the videos and give me ideas of things that you would like to see featured in the channel. If you would also like and subscribe to the channel, it would be really appreciated. So let's get to it. And in our NAS, we currently have our 5 applications in here. We have the 2 downloaders, which are 7zbd QBitTorrent. We have Sonar for TV anime, Radar for movies, LiDAR for music. And now we're going to go into the registry and we're going to go looking for Mylar. And we're going to look for Linux server Mylar 3. Why Mylar 3? Because this is the latest version. The previous one is using Python 2.7. This one is using Python 3. So that's the one we're going to use because it's the one that's getting the most support. So we right click it, select download the image. We give it a little bit of time for it to give us the different versions. We select the latest, click select, and now it'll download the image. And as usual, it's not a very big image, it should be less than 300 megs. So let's just give it a little bit of time to download. We'll be back in a bit when it's done. And just like that, it's done. So we can clear this notification here. And Mylar ends up being 186 megs. So we select it, we click launch. Don't change anything here, just click next. And in here, we're gonna first rename this to Mylar 3. Or you can name it Mylar, however you want. And then we enable CPU resource limitation so that it doesn't grab all the resources of our host. We enable auto restart so that if it turns off, it automatically starts again. And we click on the advanced settings. Here, as usual, we're gonna go and click the add button 3 times because we're gonna add 3 environment variables. The first one is the process user ID. It's usually 1026 for Synology. And the process group ID is usually 100. And then TZ for time zone, and in my case I'm going to use America, New York. And we save. After that we go and click next. Here it tells us that the container is listening on port 8090. We've already used 8080, 8081, 8082, 8083 and 8084, so we're going to use 8085 for Mylar. And we click next. Then we need to add the folders to our containers. So first we go into Docker configs, and we don't have one for Mylar, so we create one for Mylar, and that's what we select. Then we also add the downloads completed Mylar, and we add the media comics. And the first one is going to be mapped to our config location, the other one is going to be to downloads, and the last one to comics. So this should be what we see inside the container. We click next, we validate the information is correct, and we leave that checked, and we click done. And now it'll start creating that container for us inside our Synology NAS running Docker. So when we go back into containers, we'll see Mylar running here. We click on details, we click on the logs, and we monitor that it's actually doing its thing to set itself up. We see the typical information here, so we're going to keep on refreshing until we see that it's ready and listening for our application. Okay, it looks like it's doing its thing real well. Populating and loading pull list, alright. Okay, starting Mylar on 8090, so it should be listening already. Yep, we don't see any more updates, so that should be it. If we go into the IP of our NAS, port 8085, we should see the user interface of Mylar here. And now we need to make the configuration changes in our application. So we're going to click on the gears, and when we click on the gears, we're going to see important information here. We have some warnings here saying that there's no Comic Vine API key, so that's something that you would need for Mylar to work properly. It uses a Comic Vine application API. So if you're not familiar, you can go and search into Google what Comic Vine is, and it'll take you to this website, comicvine.gamespot.com, and they basically track all the major comics that are available out there, all the issues that are released, the dates and all that. So they're using this API to grab the information about the comic series that you might be interested in. So I recommend you go into Comic Vine, you create an account, and then you get your API key from them, so you can then configure it in Mylar. Without it, you won't be able to use Mylar. So the first thing we're going to do here is we go into the web interface, and as usual, we want to use form slugging here. So let's come here and do Mylar, and what else here? Okay, here is where you would be putting your Comic Vine API key. So it would be like a long string of characters and numbers. So that's what you would have to do, and you check this box here for enable the API, and then let's do that. And then you need to generate a Mylar API key, so that then you can actually connect to Mylar from other places. So that's important. And after that, what else here? We don't need to really change anything. Everything else is good. So let's save our changes. And now we can go into the download settings. In the download settings, here's where we're going to specify the information of our downloaders. So first here we have SAB and ZBD selected. So let's go back into Sonar and grab that information from there. So we have that the IP address is the IP address of our NAS. So we put that here in the host, but we started with HTTP. And then we need to specify also the port for our SAB and ZBD, which is 8081. So we put colon 8081 at the end, and that makes sure that we're pointing to the right place. And then we need to put the username and the password, so we grab that from here. We put it here, and the API, we grab it from Sonar, put it here, and then for the category here, we are going to select comics, because that's what we put in SAB and ZBD, and with the priority, we put high priority, and we enable the completed download handling. And we need to specify that the download directory is going to be the downloads folder that we specified. And now we can test that it is actually connecting to SAB and ZBD by clicking this button. And it'll give us a check mark if it's successfully able to connect. And here we would specify the Usenet retention. Remember, in our case, I was using AstraWeb, so they have 4,000 days. So that's what I'm going to put in there, and I'm going to save the changes. Additionally, we need to work with the turns, with our qubit turns. So we need to check that box that says use turns, and then we would say we want to use qubit turns, and then in here we're going to give it the details for qubit turn that we stored in our Sonar. So we say port 8080 in this case, and the username and password for our qubit turn that we set before. And then the label is going to be Mylar. Remember, for torrents, we always use the name of the application. And then for the qubit turn folder, we are going to say that it's going to be downloads Mylar. That's where the downloads are going to be stored. And the action is going to be always force start, and we can test the connection. Okay, we had a problem here, so we need to see what is going on. Oh, I see what the problem is. I did not specify that the protocol is HTTP in here, so that should fix it. There we go. Now we test it and we get that checkbox because we provided the HTTP IP colon port. Now we can save these changes again, and that should be good for the download settings. And the search provider would be the next thing we go to. In the search providers option, we are not gonna set this up manually. We're again going to use Prowler to set this information up automatically whenever we make a change in that other application. So we're going to skip that, and we are going to go into the quality and post-processing. In this case, we say that we want either a CBR or CBZ format, and that should be good for us to grab the comics. And we're going to enable post-processing, and for that we're going to say move the files. And additionally, we're going to enable monitoring, and in there we're going to say that the location that we want to monitor would be the downloads. That means that any comic that gets put into the downloads folder in our container is going to be processed. So in this case, we specified that we're going to monitor the downloads /Mylar. So that's what it's going to look at from here. And we want to monitor this folder every 30 minutes. That sounds good to me. Not too much, not too bad. And we can here convert the CBRs if we get them into CBZs. So we always have CBZ as the format that we store. And we can save this. And next we will go to the advanced settings. In here we can rename the files. And this sounds good, like the series name and the year in parentheses. And the file format also looks good, so we're not going to change any of this. And another thing we're going to do here is we're going to mark all the issues as wanted whenever we add a series to Mylar, so it looks for all of the previous episodes of that series. And what else? I guess, yep, that's all we need for this one, so we can save the changes again. And we don't have any other things to change in the configuration for Mylar. I did put my Comic Vine API key, so this should go away when I restart the application. So we can always go into the settings and then click restart, and then it should restart and reload all the settings, and then that warning should go away. As you can see, it's now prompting me for username and password because we told it that we wanted it to have it. So now we sign in, and if we go into the settings, we no longer have that warning about Comic Vine because it now is aware of our Comic Vine API key. So everything should be working appropriately now. In the next part, we're going to talk about how to set up the indexers or our search providers, how it's called in Mylar, with Prowler, and we'll continue from there. Now that we have set up our Prowler configuration, we need to do one last thing here in Mylar. We are going to go into the settings and then search providers, and here we need to enable NewSnap, where it says use NewSnap, so that it enables the use of NZBs, and then we'll see all the indexers that come from Prowler appear here. And as you can see, all of them are here, the ones that match comics, which is what Mylar looks for. So we can see NZBs here. And now to enable the torrent use also, we need to click here where it says torrents and make sure to enable TorSnap. And then we'll see the different torrent sites that came from Prowler also. So once we do that, then we can save the changes. And once this is successfully saved, then we can start actually using Mylar. In this case, you would just click here on the icon on the top left, and then you just search for some comic. For example, we could be looking for The Walking Dead as an example, right? and then we click on search, and when we click on search, it'll do our search using our Comic Vine API, and it'll retrieve all the results that match that search term that we have put. And as you can see, it gave us a list of a bunch of things. Now here we have many ways to narrow down to which one we want, because there could be many different publishers of the comics. So usually for me, the best way to go about it is to sort this by the amount of issues, and then we'll know that the one that has the most is probably the right one. It says publisher is Image, and the comic is The Walking Dead. And basically, if we can just click here where it says add this comic, and then it'll just add it to our library. We get a notification says now adding The Walking Dead on the bottom right, and if we click, well, it's already gone, but if we had clicked on view comic, we would have come down here, basically like if we have clicked here, and as you can see, it's pulling down all the information for that specific comic. As you can see, it's being loaded, so we don't see any issues yet, but once it's done retrieving all that information from Comic Vine, we'll see all the issues populating here, and everything will give us more details about this series. And here we can see that it's starting to populate the issues and the names of the issues, the dates and all that, so we can start seeing data here. Let's navigate to the very last to see if we can see issue number 1. Well, so far it's almost there. There we go, issue number 1, Days Gone, etc. And if we go to the very first, it's the last one that it has found, which is 166. It is still grabbing that information from Comic Vine, so we just need to give it time. But once we have this here, we can actually look for issues by, well, it's already set that 193 of the issues, which is the total right now, are wanted, so it should start looking for those. But with Mylar, it's a little slower than with other applications, so it's very likely that we won't see anything being added to the torrents or 7ZBD yet. It takes a little bit of time, so we just let it do its thing, and hopefully it'll get something for us to download. If we go into manage and then we go into activity jobs, then we see why it takes a little bit of time, because the auto search interval is like 360 minutes, so it's quite a while before it tries to search for something, and it's currently waiting. It's not doing anything, so that's why we normally don't see it searching for things immediately. But we could actually force a search, like let's go and here organize by the number of the episode, and let's select for example Days Gone, and if we click here on the magnifying glass, we're manually triggering a search. So let's see if it finds anything when we click it. You see here it says that it should start searching for it. Nothing here in our downloaders. So right now basically we just have to wait and see if it finds anything. There we go. It says it snatched something. It's a torrent, so we see a torrent here. It found it in Spanish, but as you can see, it works. It looks for torrents of your different comics and adds them to the queue. This one looks like it's dead basically. I don't think it has any peers, but let's give it a little bit of time to see if it actually starts downloading. Yes, it looks like there are no seeders for this torrent, so we would have to cancel this one and look again, see if we can get another one. Remove it and try another one, because it's not working. So select it and clear. There we go, it went away. And here it's not downloading, so we can get rid of it. and then we can try again with another one. So if we go back into the series, then we sort again, we'll see this change. It says it's snatched, but the one it snatched was not working. So we could really come here, mark it as failed. The options is skipped, retry the same download, but we don't want the same one because it wasn't downloading. Well, we do want to mark it as wanted. Let's mark it as wanted and see if it tries again. Okay, grabbed exactly the same torrent, so we don't want that. So we need to mark it as failed, and then it should mark it as failed, and then we should be able to do another search for it. Mark it as wanted. Let's click on search for issue, see if it finds something else. Let's try some others. Apparently the places that I have right now don't have it, like the indexers don't have it, so it's having a hard time finding it. Let's just give it some time. Okay, it said it grabbed issue number 1 again, but I see that it failed because it doesn't have enough repair blocks for that NZB. So it tried an NZB, but it failed. Even if we click retry, they're not available. So yeah, it cannot download that. So we should be trying again. This is the little problem with the comics. Comics are not as shared as much on the internet as other types of media. So with the comics, you have to be patient and you have to keep on trying and trying different indexers, and eventually you'll get them, but it's not as fast as with the other applications. Now it grabbed it. It has a new, okay, and it failed again. Not enough repair blocks. Okay, I clicked where it says search for missing, and it is looking for now all of the different episodes in that series, and see if we can maybe find a single one of those to successfully download and show it here in the video. Okay, I left this overnight trying to see if it could download any of the issues for The Walking Dead, and it was actually successful with a few of those. So as you can see, it is able to download the comics, but the availability of comics right now, it's kind of low. You have to look for very specific comics that are highly available in the internet, most likely series that, you know, American comics and stuff like that will have more success. But yeah, it works. It just takes its time. We can validate that it was working by going into our NAS and into File Station, and then in the media we should see comics. It created a new folder for the series, and if we go inside we should see the comics that have already been downloaded. As you can see, there's a few, so we got some packages here with the images for the comics.